and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, all you divine lovers out there, and welcome to my video. It's been quite a while. I've been away because after coming home after a short trip, I felt a little bad. So as you see, I still have a little throat thingy. I had to take a week off just to, to replenish my physical body. But I've missed you all so much. I've missed being here, and I've missed talking about the things that I love to present so much to all of you out there, to all of us together as a group, collective consciousness, working towards unity, light, and working together as one collective of brotherhood and sisterhood of the divine. So I wish to say first that I've had quite a bit interesting unfolding as I went on this short weekend holiday. I actually was riding on the bus, and I was reading this book that I've showed you a while ago, the fourth book of Convoluted Universe from Dolores Cannon. After reading like 2 chapters, I just kind of put the book away, and all of a sudden I started writing my own things, in my little notebook, in my little journal. And I wish to bring the focus and attention to my book, which is now in the process of making and creating. I'm going to share a little bit more about this towards the end. Please stay updated if you're interested. The book will be about volunteer souls. It will be about many things. The initiative finally came for me this year to write it. I've shared about this in my previous video, but now it started coming more and more. So I couldn't stop. The bus is very bumpy, and I had to write a few things. A few of them I'll already share in this video today. But I would like to ask you if you feel somehow in resonance with what I share, because the book will have a perspective on everything. It will be a little bit of my own experience as one of the volunteer souls. It will be written from my point of creation origin as the mission of my being, which is to be a creation pillar at this pivotal point here in the Alps. But also there will be lots of channeled from my higher self, from my cosmic nursery wisdom. And if you feel compelled, you feel this will assist you. What I mean by this is I haven't done this before. As you know, I've been doing a lot of writing. I've produced a lot of writing and video speaking in these few years. It's been a journey of quite a long 6 years, something like that, 7 years of me doing this, bringing this guidance unconditionally and loving support to all of us. But if you feel in any way called to also support me now on this journey, because I'm going to need more time to write the book, it's not so simple. I wanted to make it something that's very efficient. I don't like too lengthy material myself. I don't like to read too much. If it's something that really gets me going, I'm gonna go through it. Like Dolores' books are pretty long, but I like it that way, and I just go about them really slowly. And I'm usually drawn to the chapters of what I'm receiving myself simultaneously. So it's more like my soul speaking to me, although it might appear to be a book. But my book will be more of what I'm receiving, a greater perspective of the grand galactic design, what's occurring, but also how to handle yourself. How do you know your volunteer soul, and how to carry yourself, because you have a very unique mission on this planet, and it's important to get activated as soon as possible. So this is the perspective, and this is the guidance why I'm feeling this initiative finally taking place this year, not just because it's numerologically a 1 year or something special happened. Sometimes people tell me, and I've received quite a lot of the comments when people say, well, I've been wanting you to do that for a long time, or I've always thought, why does she write a book? And the thing is, it's not a mental for me. Everything that I do is when I receive this downpouring of pure knowing from my oversoul complex, and this time it really came forth. It's a strong knowing, and whenever a knowing for me to do something is strong, I take the initiative immediately. I don't hesitate for too long. So if you feel in a way to support this, because I have to take a little more time away to do this, if you want to support my work, because I did so far so many videos on topics freely, free of charge, just simply unconditionally. But if you feel still inspired, you wish to receive these videos and they mean a lot to you, because now I have to take more time to write the book. As you know, this is the livelihood that I do. This is all that I do. This is what I'm here for on this planet. I am a volunteer soul. So we, as I've been writing already, I started writing this weekend, we don't have a basic human job. We have a 24/7 mission. So our tasks are endless and we're working tirelessly behind the scenes, and this is not always obvious. So even for me, when I'm away for a week or more, I'm not really away. I'm processing and integrating a lot of the things that then later I always come and share with all of you. But if you want my videos to still stay as frequently as updated as they were so far, as much as I can do that, and me writing the book, which is a lot to handle on my behalf, and doing my inner work of processing all these new energies coming in, I would please invite you to support this work in any way that you're being called to. I have regular just donation button on my page set up in a light, but there's also a Patreon channel that I created, when you can become my patron as well and help me in that way. So far, I've only been receiving the guidance to be, I don't know yet, because my guidance is always in the now moment. That's the thing. It's hard for me to put things in advance. I don't know. And my oversoul complex wants me to stay that way because it's pure. It's coming from the intent of the purity of soul. It's not coming from mental assumptions and undertakings. So I don't know yet. It's going to be on online or it's going to be printed book as well. I don't know yet, but I will need additional support with that. Because it's just me here and so many of you wanting and anticipating. So thank you for so much for this. If you're somehow called to do the beneficial required energy exchange for that, because will help me to focus more time and energy that will be shorter, so that I can do as much as I can, that I don't have to focus so much on the monetary things. I'm just going to go with the flow. So anyway, now that that's out of the question, we've done that, we've talked about this, I want to come closer to today's topic, which is the nature of our becoming new star being origin galactic pulsating spiraling DNA. I know there's a lot of words to handle, but I'm going to talk again about enlightened partnerships, about relationships, and how do we handle all those things that really make us spiritually adult beings. Just recently, someone in this channeling I've listened to spoke about us using the word masters, and you've probably heard me talk about that as well, but I rather use the word self-mastery because that implies you only being a master of yourself, of your sovereign domain, not to be a master like you're now this king or queen or now you're this external authority to anyone else. No, it's an act of still being behind the scenes. It's still internally acknowledged, but it's not like you think you're something or someone, and it's not egoic. So I've always talked about this as a process of always becoming, it's always expanding. And yet, when I meet people, there's a lot of ego that gets involved, especially with the newly awakening ones that don't have yet the process covered. They haven't gone through the things we've gone, or perhaps their soul is not yet that evolved and it's their first time awakening. And I'm going to talk about the nature of things being owned and acknowledged in this video, and what really shifts us into this form of being galactic masters of the self, which means to be a fully activated being, a fully luminous being, aware of yourself, but bringing that fruition, bringing the maturity into your physical conscious actions, because I still witness so much of that blah 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 and on and on and on. We've read something about ascension, we've done something, and now we think we've got it all figured out. Or people say, well, now my masks have fallen off. Well, perhaps, but there's so many layers that people have created around them, that these things are basically needing time. They need time and fruition. And just like in this book, the fourth book of Convoluted Universe, someone said through this beautiful work of channeled art, that some people say that you can shift your DNA like instantly. And then these beings, the oversoul complex, said, no, you cannot do that. It's a process. It's a gradual process. And I've always witnessed myself in the same way, and how spirit put these things for me to understand in this melting pot of a complex awareness. So the thing is that the whole nature of the human psyche and our evolution is complex. Truth is simple, yeah, but it's not black and white. And for us to become these evolving beings of light, of the galactic heritage that we belong to, we cannot be immature. We cannot not own our responsibilities and our actions and, all these things. So I've channeled this message today, as I do now on each full moon and new moon. I do these ascension alignments, these ascension guidance messages that are later also shared, besides just my Facebook page called Ascension Pioneers, on my blog, Diary of an Ascension Pioneer. You can find all these blogs there. They're all ascension related. They're all about the evolution of your luminosity, about you moving into unity consciousness. And that takes work, and it's a gradual recognition process. But on this path, I've witnessed a lot of people who awaken a little bit to this mental perception of what this reality of awakening is supposed to be. They read a few words here and there, and very quickly they create this mash. It's almost like a template that they later copy paste on everything they witness and experience. So if they do an action that's not fully mature, and I've had people doing that in my reality, and I couldn't accept that. It was unacceptable. You try to tell them, you engage with human emoting, which are feelings. That's what we're given, these feelings, because through them we integrate and transcend. And people who have been detached for such a long period of time that they think they're emoting, but they're not really, because they're still so self-deceived. And well, they are, because they're deceiving themselves and others, and they're being self-centered to the degree that they think whatever they do, and if another tries to tell them, look, you've done this in a not really compassionate way, they won't accept it. And they'll say, no, you're just projecting onto me. I'm not going to hear about me and what I've done, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, why this is happening is because their hearts are still closed. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you, I'm going to present you with these two modules, the old and the new, which they're not really modules, but basically the new and the new template that's coming in, and what we can do to receive that galactic pulse of life, and how this affects our emotional maturity and maturity in our relationships, because that's so important. For all of you who are volunteer souls, you're going to have to come to terms that there is importance of you being a hermit. There is an importance of you to be a being of constant how do I say this? Constant coming back to your own source, replenishing from within, seeking your guidance, aligning with your guidance, and doing a lot of retrospective. But the thing is, it's not mental, it's not analytical. It will have to be spirit infused. And if you haven't done that, if you're not connected to that galactic pulse of life, a lot of the conclusions and assumptions you're going to make will be from the mind. And that is why these people who are less evolved in those degrees, because they cut these parts of them away. They've been doing that for so long that in a way they can no longer empathize. And sometimes it can become so extreme that we call these people sociopaths, because they have completely, in a way, suppressed these feelings, their tendency to feel and emote. There's various degrees to that, but you can see very quickly with people how self-centered, how self-deceitful they are. And just recently, and you can read that guidance, the latest guidance, on my blog post. I've received this guidance that still, even though we were perhaps hurt or betrayed by these people, we become the true spiritual initiates when we master our own ownership, which means, well, we've been given the clues and signposts from our own intuition about these people. Because if you haven't noticed, everyone that comes into your reality is in a way teaching you something. And when they first start speaking to you and exchanging energy, very quickly they're going to tell you bits and pieces of information and details about themselves that will reveal where they are in their journey and in their evolutionary cycle. But something within you that's not fully acknowledging them, and I used to do that too. I used to babysit so much for people that I used to defend them to the very last, until in certain extreme cases they got very vile and very mean with me. It's because they felt that triggering of the white ray, which is what I serve, this white ray of unity, and it can become so extremely pulling out of all those delusions out of a person that if they're not willing to see and acknowledge, and this is because their heart's not activated and open yet, they're going to be the ones starting projecting and denying. So when you say something to them, they're going to feel like that projection is coming back to them, but it's their own act. But what we have to learn is that why are we in that exchange anyway, as sovereign masters of our own domain? That's the only way that I use the word master anyway. Not that we're these beings full of ego and, self conceited, and now we think we rule the world. No. but to be an ownership of ourselves. And that's the only mastery that I do teach and I do share about. So perhaps what has been going on is that we, in certain parts of us that were also not fully mature, we have to now take ownership of. And this is really strongly happening now for many of us, for many of you. If you felt like all those old wounds and hurts or people coming at you that were not so mature and you somehow engage with them and they brought up this within you, why is this happening? And I had to go through this myself in order to really see it as my own unrecognized aspects, my own blind spots, because that's what we do. Those of us working with awareness consciously, we're going to realize, we're going to witness these things. We're not going to deny and, deflect. We're going to reflect. We're going to that inner analysis, which is not mentally analytical, but is truly going to become an act of pure awareness. So we're going to be consciousness speaking as consciousness through us, and we're going to see those patterns and why we were in it anyway. So if there's a relationship and someone acts like this and they don't want to own up to something they did, perhaps it was even very hurtful towards you, and they're not even feeling any empathy or compassion towards it, that is the most radical energy exchange we can have, which is a being having zero compassion for you. And all they want to do is like quickly, it's like when you have a business or you do a business and you're just being polite and you want that to go away out of your life as quickly as possible. So you say a few nice words, la la la, something on the surface, and then you just want to move it along the way. Well, eventually it catches up with us because basically we can never run away from anything as much as we try, or we want to try. But the thing is, for those of us who are aware, who are doing work of unity, we have to become aware of our own blind spots. And we're going to tune into that. We're going to see where others are doing that, because in a way, if you're a volunteer soul, you do have the truth detector. You do have that BS detector that's very strong, but you're not always trusting it for some reason. And that's because we all, as humans, when we come into these human bodies, we still have those patterns, which we, in a way, we have to undergo. So we go through these initiations. That's where the only initiation that you are a sovereign, integral being will come from your own spirit. It's not going to come from a weekend workshop, someone giving you this degree or a stamp, now you're certified, this and that. It has to come through you, through your own acknowledged sovereignty and maturity, your spiritual adulthood in a way. So a lot of us, I feel, are really walking into this spiritual adulthood, and it had to do with us taking ownership for everything. So if someone was in a certain way, if they were egoic, conceited, lacking compassion, whatever it was, we have to see why in the first place we related with them anyway. We have to see those blind spots, because when we go back, and I had to go back in a few of those scenarios myself, and I had to see, wait a minute, I received all the guidance right from the start. Why didn't I pay attention? Is because sometimes we do have that within us that tries to defend something which is of the lesser nature to the last. But that means we're kind of like, we're keeping the shadow. We almost like, oh, let's make it like this. We want to kind of overprotect it. And recently someone told me, they weren't being truthful to this person, right? And they kind of shared something with me. And they said, well, the reason why I'm not telling this person that is because I don't want to hurt them. I kind of, I just want to keep it like this. And I said, you know what? You're basically just wanting to come out a nice, decent person. But that's not really nice, because you're being not genuine. You're not authentic. You're not being truthful. You're wanting to prevent certain feelings. And that's not really emotional. And people who do that are not aware of the importance of intimacy and true compassion. Again, read my full guidance, because it talks about that and how do we master our own ownership and taking the responsibility for our actions. Okay, so when we don't, what does that mean is we usually project it onto someone else, or we want to avoid it, or we will say, okay, I just don't want to think about that. I just want to move my life in this direction. Well, guess what? If we're meant to mature somehow along the lines, it will come back to us, perhaps through another person or another scenario situation, but it will continue to come back. And for us, and I do explain this in my Cosmic Beloved course, because I teach you simple ways to work through conscious partnership and the relationships, all of them in your life, to mirror and reflect back to you so that you can fully regain your universal consciousness, okay? You can try it, of course, because it's really beautiful. It helps you with that. And what I mean by that is, it's an energy, right? When a person returns, or something within someone else that bugs us, or something we can't let go, it's about the energy surrounding that. And when that energy really wants to finally mature, it's going to come in layers and stages. But when it's finally going to be ready for the maturation, on each level, we're going to see it more multidimensionally. Because the thing with people who see things as black and white means they're still in duality consciousness. You say something to them, they say, this is not like this, you're merely projecting at me. Black, white. Something they read, something they feel they know, that's all they know, black and white. These people are not yet expanded into the galactic heart, into the cosmic, stellar origin of our true nature. They don't have that pulse, spiral of life, galactic pulse attunement yet. They can receive from it, so they see things still within duality. Those of us who are here to show unity consciousness, we have a lot of work to do. It starts within ourselves. And I'm going to write more about this, the nature and the purpose of volunteer souls and how they evolve through time, moving into their spiritual adulthood. And what is really important, because our lives are going to shift. We're going to do different things when we mature in that. For the most part, I had to deal with a lot of these relationships. A lot of them were even not fully mature in my own life, because I was working with these patterns on a human collective level. And I had to each time go within one. I couldn't deny it. I couldn't say, well, that's just something coming to me. It's not important. It's about that person. I wouldn't do my work if that was true. So each time I had to go in the energy. So volunteer souls, we transmute energy, but we have to go in it, to feel it, to fuel it with new consciousness, and to transmute it, to transcend. So what I want to share about here today, about this maturity, why is it so important, is because we are the ones doing the work. If something is coming out that, let's say you have a dependency on someone being a certain way, or you expect someone to apologize or empathize or be compassionate a certain way, and they're not, it's not an act of righteous, self-righteous demanding. We can't expect that, but we have to be conscious agents of change within. So the work of our DNA transformation, we're doing this alteration of the consciousness through our light DNA, infusing and becoming our new physical DNA. We're doing that through this. So okay, let's start with today's topic in a more broader sense. While I was on the bus doing my writing, I wrote about the cosmic cradle. So the cosmic cradle basically is the genetic structure that we each have interwoven within our galactic DNA, which is a much broader DNA that you're now able to process. When you're looking at things as just me, just this persona, just this human, right? This is the more expanded you, which operates beyond time, space, and different levels, all simultaneously at the same time. That is when you perceive relationships happening into separately, different people, separate things, no. That's all working together in unison. So you might have, let's say in your life, when that's expressed relationships, those of you who that's how you integrate, there's a lot of people who do things differently. They're more activists for the things at large in the world. But those of us who are moving into the extreme nature of DNA complexities, we're moving into the depth, which means the deepest intimacy, which does take place between the two. The masculine, the feminine, vertical and horizontal, spirit and matter. So this is the most primal, the six-pointed star. That's the star that really denotes this process. It's our fully balanced self, vertically, horizontally, feminine, masculine is one. So what this means is that it's almost like once we expand this, right, we're going to start operating from more multidimensional consciousness, which first of all, we won't see things any longer as black and white. We won't see a relationship as, okay, coming, ending, beginning, ending, okay, another one coming. We're not going to see them as separate events or separate relationships. We're going to see more and more unity. We're going to see things and energies as interacting with us. And I teach all about that in my Cosmic Beloved course. It's over 3 hours long, I think. You can take the course. It's really going to expand your understanding of relationships. And I know that a lot of people are not there yet. They don't want to see it that way, and that's okay. That's why, because my content, the content that I deliver, and thank you so much. There's this beautiful person sending me emails. They said that what I share is probably meant for most advanced souls on this planet. So thank you so much for recognizing that. It's really an honor. I do my best. I'm not considering what I do a certain way or most or advanced. But if you feel that in a way and it helps you this way and that's what you recognize, thank you so much. I really appreciate feedback like that. So thank you so much. But what I want to say is that the aim is to have this advanced perspective, okay? So the more we will expand that way, we're going to see everything like, it's going to be a weaving of energy, a web of light. And those of us who belong and serve the galactic family of light, in a way, we're always being brought back to the core, to what's really important. Even if we had people like this, we sometimes we perceive them as infiltrators or the egoic ones or those living in separation, but it's no longer about us and them, right? That's why we're here. We're here to hold the hands of those that they have to hold their hand as well. If they want to, they have to want to be helped or to be assisted. If people are refusing it, don't bother, because the thing is, then you're already trespassing their territory, right? You're going against their free will, and that's when the projection happens, okay? So the difference between what I would say, what people perceive as a projection, someone says something, are you judging me, you're projecting me, or the real fact that's realistic, and someone does something and you will quickly say, well, that was coming from a place of selfishness or self-righteousness, and you're going to just simply share your experience with it. It's not projection, because you're merely expressing the experience you've had, and it's physical. And recently, I know there's this woman doing a lot of channeled angelic messages, and she was saying a lot of these things in a very similar fashion. She said people just want to be like here and oh, and everything is the same. They throw a little bit of the phrases, you know, this is coming in your life because you attracted it, and this is because of you. You are this way. That is so black and white. You have to have a very advanced, multidimensional, you know, the highest aim is 12D awareness, all levels in this universal consciousness, right? And there's levels beyond, but here, what's important for us in this universal framework, this is our highest aim. And there's those of us who feel and see that perspective and those that do not. And we can't judge them for being where they are. They simply are where they are. But if we're being violated in any way, if we're being trespassed in any way, we have the right to say that, and it's not projection because we were emotionally involved with that experience. A projection would more be in a way like you not simply throwing things at someone that you don't even know. Like sometimes people write you messages online. Now everybody's a part of everybody's life, right? Online is social media and stuff. And people just throw things at you. They don't know you. They've never had an experience with you, and they just throw out opinions. Well, that's projection, and that's an opinion. But you having a real life experience with someone, and they did something and their actions were poor, and they weren't reflecting unity, and they were reflecting lots of separation and duality mode, and you have to acknowledge it, and you at least have to speak up for the behalf of your own truth. But there's also something else I want to mention, because recently I've seen this very short, I think it's about 3 minutes clip from Saint Germain, and he was the one channeling was saying something, and there was this woman standing up, and she said, you know what, I want to rise up and forgive all the men for doing whatever they did to the women, right? I want to forgive all men. And then he said, really? All men? Just like that? You think they're just going to have it easy as that for years and ancient, you know, not in decades, centuries and millennia perhaps or more of oppression? You said, well, yeah, it has to start somewhere. And the thing is, you know, sometimes people do and say these things. It's nice. It does sound nice. Oh, I forgive you all, you know. But the thing is, sometimes I see this as people like taking a wand and just, you know, just like doing these swift movements and, oh, I forgive you, I do this, you know, it's like playing our little magic, pretending we're these little magicians. Magic is something else. Magic is a sacred alchemy that either unfolds because the energy is as it is right, or it doesn't. So we can say whatever we want, and words are powerful. Yes, they do state the intentions, but it's not the whole of it. It's not, it doesn't end there. So it's nice to say things like that, but unless, you know, we can say many things on the surface level, it's okay. But there's probably still something within us that feels, I still resent. I still don't fully acknowledge it. It's almost like saying, oh, I forgive you, it's okay, whatever it is. And that's why he said something like, you think they're going to have it that easy? And he said, no, not at all, probably not. Because it has to be first the owning of responsibility, the ownership for the actions. Like I said, we can't force those who have done actions of separations upon themselves and the other, because remember, again, the first rule, whatever someone does onto you, they do first onto themselves, because they go against their very primal nature, which is unity. We're all born of divine love, and then we forget. So there's those of us here reminding us of that. But I want to say that it doesn't go as simple as waving a wand and saying, you're forgiven. It's all nice. It's all beautiful and fluffy. And I wish it was that easy, of course. But things, again, they are a gradual shift. And just like we're watching and witnessing these events online, and the media, and the public, about, you know, politicians, whatever. It's all a stage, and there is a higher plan to everything. And yet, as humans, we have perspectives that they're not always easy to handle, and we're shifting gradually into understanding and seeing them from the unity light. Okay, so be where you are. Welcome yourself and initiate yourself each time into the deeper level of this spiraling movement, that the galactic pulse of life, that you're always being informed through the galactic pulse of light rather than your ego and a separate self. Because that information has to occur somewhere. You have to feed somewhere, or elsewhere you don't exist, right? You're not being in constant motion, which is how the whole creation is built. It's how everything flows. So something as food for thought, mana, whatever, it's coming in. But we who work with unity, we kind of are keeping it with the galactic pulse of light mana, with the universal mana. Okay, we don't want to make it like hungry ego, hungry ghosts. So these things, they will need to be acknowledged. What that means is if someone has wronged something, the collective, just the other person, perhaps just an animal, you know, whatever it was, we have to own it first within ourselves. So whoever has done any kind of act of separation, they will first have to forgive who? The self. And remember, when you forgive the self, all is already forgiven because you're not separate from everyone else. And sometimes people say you have to forgive others first so you'll be able to forgive yourself. No, 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 no. You see, that again is an idea that things are happening outside of you. And once you'll be able to forgive someone else, then you're going to be able to forgive yourself. So, no. Again, go back to what I've explained about having a relationship. And at the end of it, as sour as it can get, whatever comes out, you're like, what? This person did that? How? How could they? Well, they've shown you all the signs. Go back. Oh, do your owning, do your own self responsibility work, do your self sovereignty, do your integrity lineup, and find your blind spots. And then ask yourself again, when you do, when you fully feel that you've forgiven yourself because you've simply gone through the experience. Perhaps you were not in full knowing then, and now you are. You know, now you're so much wiser. You've incorporated much more wisdom into your body. Wisdom that is not just celestial, but it's coming in your human form. And for that, you've shifted the energy because you've acknowledged it and you've owned it. And then ask yourself, is there really something else you need to forgive? How do you feel about that? Each time tune in. If there's a person who strongly mirrors that to you, ask yourself time and time again, but how do I really feel about them? Because your words, your mouth might want to say, oh, I love you, I just love you, I just want to be with you. But then they still go like, ah, and you're like, oh, I don't feel that way. I still hate them. A part of me still hates them. Well, own that part. Say, yes, I do. In that moment, I freaking do. And I'm being authentic. And you need to move into the feeling to feel it, because it will just dissolve when you bring love of the acceptance of the self into it. Okay, but why a lot of these people, like I said, they can't feel that, they can't emote that way, is because they've been, you know, torn from that, they've been cut off from that for so long. Okay, let's go back to this cosmic cradle, right? The cosmic cradle is the genetic structure that is interwoven into the no time space within the full-on galactic consciousness. So according to the Earth mission, the genetics, we all have it. It's interwoven in the etheric body matrix, which is the container for the cradle of light. Which means if that link is established and it's firm and it's always in flowing, we will always receive our mana, our basic life force chi, through the cradle of light, through the light body. We all have a light body, but are we connected? Is it infusing? It is bleeding through this reality into our physical vessel? I don't know. You know, you have to do that work. So the main mission of most of the volunteer souls, they each have a unique mission. I'm going to talk about that in the book. If you want to read more about that, if you're so interested, if you feel there's something in it for you, please, again, like I said, you can find a space in your heart to support my work. There's a lot to write about. Sometimes I'm like, where to start? It's just so much. It can be overwhelming at times. But the main mission at the core level is for us to bring this new energy transfer to the planet, which is to change the old DNA encoding matrix of this wave DNA. I'm going to give you a little sketch and show you what this means, into the new DNA spiral design. Well, not like it's new. It's perhaps new as we're starting up again, right? As we're almost like resuscitating the human collective again. But it's not new in that sense. It's new in the sense that everything that is in its essence, that is true. There's always new. It's always recreating itself. But that which is stagnant cannot constantly recreate itself. There's this beautiful line from, I think it's Osho's Tarot, Transformation Tarot, when the Buddha transformed a murderer, because he gave him this cute little antidote, and he said, anecdote. Sorry, antidote. Yeah, just give him the antidote and he's gonna be fine. No more poison, right? And no more murder poison in his blood. Sorry. Sometimes I confuse words, but anyway, the meaning is right. The meaning is just. What I want to say is that he gave him a little like fable in terms of showing what life force truly means. So he said, "Will you please, with your knife, just give me those leaves from the tree?" And he gave them, right? He said, "Okay, give you these leaves from the tree." And then he said, "Well, okay, now my desire is, can you please put them back on the tree?" And he saw that he couldn't. He cannot make that which was dead alive again. He said, "I can't." And in the moment he was broken. What was broken was his ego. What was broken was his pathology, right? This pathological behavior which made him that way. And he cracked and he saw that basically he cannot give life. And then Buddha said, well, if you have no capacity to birth life, to give life, then you have no right to take one. Okay, so that's what we're continuously doing. You know, just gonna give you one little example. I was buying a new winter jacket, right? And everything was like full of feathers, like these like feathery jackets. I'm like, oh my God. And then I started doing this research, because now they have these tags on rightful care of these animals, that they, you know, safely treated and nicely treated. Some of them have these logotype, right? This design. And I'm just reading the whole policy on that on my app. I'm like, what? That just promises that they're being well treated during the course of their life, but they're still bringing them to the slaughterhouse so they can get the things, right, and the feather, you know, the mushy, the soft, what they have, I don't know what's it called, the undercoat, and then the feathers. And I'm thinking they're still producing and feeding these animals so they can become the jackets, so we can be warm. Where there's so much other technology we already have. Why are we doing that? Again, you see, that's still pathological. And even though we label it, oh, it's safe, I have this special label for it, it's less toxic, or it's more environmentalistic, it's still selfish. I'm sorry. So until we shift that mentality, until we feel as life itself feels, how can we take life away if we have no ability to produce it? We can clone it, but there's no life in it, okay? Again, I'm going to show you that book if you haven't been with me last time. It's The Convoluted Universe, part 4, book 4. Super awesome, this one. First one, I started reading, I'm like, where's all the multidimensional topics? Because in the beginning, it's a lot about murder and stuff and the higher perspectives. And then, you know, somewhere in the middle it starts. I'm like, now it gets me going. So it's pretty good, pretty awesome. Okay, so the thing is, let's go back. I always do that. I kind of stray away and they come back. But again, you see, it's all one topic. The reason why I think this way is I'm not a linear being. I take a little bit from here and there, and it's like I'm so expanded that it's like things are popping up as I go along the way. That's why I can never produce something from here to here, from A to Z, linear. I can't. It's just not me. So our mission, right, going back to the main mission, that we're bringing that pulse of life again, which deals with the galactic pulse of life through the new spiraling DNA consciousness, that it evolves to a certain point and that also is ready to self-realize. And that's going to be in my book. So did you know that just as we self-realize, the whole galaxy self-realizes? So these are aspects that are more advanced, more evolved, always coming and infusing. It's like an interfusion of life, if I can use that term, self-coined. That's being created because there's always going to be this osmosis happening. So it's us calling other aspects back home, back into their own genuine nature, to its realized self state of spiraling being, so that all life forms within that life will participate in rebirth into a new form of light pattern. I'm not going to go into the rest. You know, you can find more in the book once it's available. I hope soon. But there's a lot happening that we don't know yet. That's all I want to say. And then I wish to show you this concept. Made this little sketch. I hope you can see it. So this here, on this side, is the old. I've written down human, although it's not as linear human. Oh, this is not human. It's still human. Is its optimum. But where we are, where most humans are still now. So it's this linear fashion flow of energy, how the energy moves. Imagine that I'm going to explain a little bit about the DNA, okay? If you want to know more about DNA, there's like this whole chapters in this book. Book 4. It's the section about, I think, the energy. No, it's the last section about time and dimensions. You have the changing the DNA, the color of the DNA, working within the systems of the earth, and many things like that. So it talks a lot about DNA here as well. But from a simple perspective, DNA at its core level, as a source produces it, right? It's almost like a never-ending coiling of energy, right? And goes out and expands, and each different aspect will become a different part of an aspect of creation, okay? So if we're looking at it like this DNA was limited. But what we call a human now can only be the way it is now within this DNA matrix, because that's what this can produce. It cannot produce more, this wave form, right? So for us to be and exist physically in a different form, to have these more expanded and advanced soul gifts, we have to first shift in the DNA. That's where the original encoding is at, okay? So just recently in this channeling, they've talked about not everyone being able to assist humans on greater levels than 3D or 4D shifts. Okay, there's much of these different intersections of energy in between third and fifth. It's not just 2 levels, as many layers and levels. Okay, so people say you're third density or you are 2, but there's many intersections in between, right? So it's up to how much activated our DNA and our galactic pulse of life is. But what I want to say here is that because the DNA, it's where it all starts. It's the signature, okay? So wherever you are at, and someone that does not hold the knowledge here, and that's what they shared in that channeling, they cannot assist you. They can only assist you to this point, and then no longer. You have to go on your own or find another reference point for your healing, or your healing journey of your whole soul integration into a full-on universal consciousness, because that's our aim, right? As beings of galactic heritage and origin. Okay, so again, where to go next? What I want to say now is that when you do healing work or modalities and something works and then nothing changes, I mean, you're still being static, or you're expecting something to trigger certain points of view, or something feels like the energy has outrun itself, or it's run out its course. This means that, okay, you've done this work, you can no longer feel it, but your intuition will tell you this is complete. Okay, I allow new things to come in. That's what continues to expand us. And that's when I said these people who are operating at this wave consciousness, I'm going to explain why they cannot feel, why they cannot empathize, because they haven't activated this yet. So when you're tuned into the galactic pulse, you see we'll have a spiraling DNA patterning, which is going to be coils and coils moving. It's almost like it starts like this and it expands further out. It's very wide. It's hard to present what you receive with your inner knowing and vision. I wish you could make it a drawing, but I think there's a lot of people who've made a lot of beautiful art, DNA art. There's a lot of soul art. You already freely shared as well. About DNA and how it expands and goes further out. But it's all just these writings and structures of the placings where everything is. And it's all like these programs, like we program things into a computer, but this is like the finest art computer we can get. It's like divine intelligence, right? We can't even think on that level. Comprehend it. Like they said in the Dolores books, right? They said your mind, which is the higher mind they meant, because it was a capital M, can comprehend it. But your brain cannot, because our brain so far in this where we are now, this level, our brain can only is programmed for the tasks and assignments that we are now living on this level of density of embodiment. So we have to shift the light DNA frequency, and that's what the volunteer souls are doing. We're bringing a new infusion of light so that we can expand also and bring that to the physical, okay? So that the physical vehicles are changing as well. The people, first of all, it starts with survival mode, with believing in death, very dogmatic perceptions. Those are the first thing to go. But it doesn't end there. It continues and keeps on going to the things like gifts of the soul, which is teleportation, telecommunication, things like that. Awesome things. So when you have this wave-based linear fashion where the energy can go in and out, but you don't receive direct attunement to the galactic pulse of light because your DNA is not there yet. It hasn't been activated into this. So when in that channeling, they share that certain beings can only work on the level they can work, because you can work as a healer, as a holistic practitioner, whatever you are, or consider yourself to be, on the level of your own integrity and spirit initiation. Doesn't matter what kind of certificate you have externally, but you can do the work you were meant to be doing at a certain point, right? Okay. Don't expect yourself, I have to heal this, I have to help this person. And they've also said this, that in the level of Akasha, and certain things you're transcribing from there, it doesn't end there. So for this type of work, which is the essentials, it's the basic seeding, and it's to work with our star-seeded prototypes within. We have to work also at much greater, broader levels, and not everyone is initiated through their soul. Their soul is not advanced enough so they can do that, okay? So when you're working with yourself on the journey of your expansion and ascension, you have to work with the healers, practitioners that your soul kind of presents you with. If you feel you're not progressing, you're not moving forward, you're finding yourself stagnant, just keep on going, and perhaps for a while do the inner work. And it's not all like you listen to this tape recording, activate your DNA into the galactic consciousness and you're going to be fine, and just listen 12 times a day and then you're going to be fine in a month. No, it doesn't go like that at all. What spirit always shows me is that this galactic pulse of life is the only way, this attunement, this coming into the white light of unity, being in our spiraling DNA, is what makes us attuned to that universal love. And the more love, it's a multiversal process. Again, you see here it goes just like this in a linear fashion, the energy moves. But here in the galactic consciousness and the star being, the star human being, right, the fully activated being, into their multidimensional awareness, they're streaming energy in all directions, but it flows. What goes out goes instantly back to them. So why these certain beings cannot empathize is because they're not being fed directly through that galactic pulse of life. So when I recently had this experience of my own, and I've been pondering and reflecting and asking Spirit, that's what initially instantly came as an answer. Spirit said they don't have yet the mechanics within, the template within yet, to be attuned to the galactic pulse of light. So their decision making, their references, their reactions to life, their reactive responses, they're very much wounded responses at most times, because whatever is coming from duality, it is a pathology, because we're not beings of duality. Okay, duality is a principle, a certain system that we can choose to participate in at this time, but it's not on the being level at our core who we are. Okay, so whenever we think this is how we are and we act from it, we're living a pathology. And pathology means it's not natural to us. It's a behavior that's unnatural. It is developed as a diseased, a wounded type of our human reaction. So these beings that don't yet have this template, they don't have the understanding, and that's why the responses will be black, white, left, right, wrong, right. You know, this is how it is, no other way. You know, I'm right or I'm wrong. You know, win or lose, these kind of things. That's all duality. And from 2D, this was the density. It was, again, was much higher awareness, and you all know that. If you're watching my videos, you already know these things. It was tempered with. So there's just a bunch of these beings. This is just one group that influenced the whole because they wanted to have control over this planet and this race. So they've tempered with the DNA, they've dropped it to this point, and the bodies, the vehicles became operational at this level. So the infusion of light that's happening through the Galactic Light Initiative, the grand design, and a lot of this on a bigger perspective will be a part of my book as well, is about to bring that infusion of light back again and bring everything back to the galactic pulse. So either I'm in the video or this is in the video. Ooh, that's duality too. We're gonna be both of us when I do like that. Maybe I can. Okay, so that's duality in its finest, right? And that's the unity at its finest. So when we're being fed by this constant galactic pulse of life, you will feel that within you, even though people come your way, they're still based in duality, or they hurt you, or they wrong you, or they're not very nice towards you, or they're limiting themselves, and you somehow feel the repercussions of that, you still are always moving back into unity, because that's this pulse of light always gets you there. You're always going to come back to compassion. And even though at times, because someone can be so crass and so mean, you're just like, oh, in the end, you always come back to this very quickly. So the more attuned you are to this life pulse, to this life force coming from your spiraling DNA template, the more this will be an instant process. Eventually, when you do your own clearing and healing, you won't even have that as in lagging behind. Like someone does something, you need a while to process it, and then you can move back to this, right? Breathing this. When I say breathing this, it's not like just this physical breath you think of. It's the spirit breath of life. It's you connecting to this breath of life. The galactic reanimation. You're constantly being reanimated. And that's what creates life. So in this book, when I mentioned to you about the DNA, they talked about whether they can be life in something that we clone and we artificially produce. They said the intention is not coming from the Godhead. It's not coming from the creator gods. It's coming from the mind. It's coming from a certain intention to make something, to have a meaning of something, but it's not divinely designed. And that which is not divinely designed will never have that life force running through. And yeah, we can have clones, and we do. They're real. But they're not real as in life-giving through the Godhead, through the grand design and this pulse of life. So those of us, and I write about this as well, as volunteer souls who have an amazing, tremendous life force energy, so full of life, so vital, charismatic. It's because charisma does denote your life force. It's how much life force you have. Those of us who feel really alive is because we're constantly transmitting and emitting this life pulse. And at a certain point, we create so much of this energy transfusion that this goes into the collective, how do you call it, morphogenetic fields, which is the fields of unity. Sometimes people ask me about those things. Well, you can Google them as well. You know, sometimes people send me these emails. What does this mean? What does that mean? Just Google it. Everything now, or there's even Ascension dictionaries or whatever it is online. So you can find anything. Just don't use me as a Google, because that's not my mission. I'm not a Mr. Google. Okay, I am Pulana Aurea. So let's go back to what I want to say, is that at a certain rate of how much this infusion we do, and a lot of it is happening on the superconscious level of who we are as a being, as a human. We have these lives, right? And we think that's all there is. We have these relationships, that's all there is. Wrong. There's so much more happening always behind the scenes, and even most of my work and a lot of yours work is happening behind the scenes. And that's why sometimes we need more support than what people think. Okay, they did this video, they did this reading, they did that. Okay, check. You know, it's not so black and white either. We're multidimensional. Remember that. We do lots of things that are, you know, the physical products are just a very, very thin representation of what's really taking place. So this spiral galactic DNA, this is the solution. This is our aim. The highest is, like I've written here, it's a 12D. This is the template, the 12th or the 13th octave chakra system. I've talked about this in my old videos. You can find that as well. Just type in whatever it is or browse through. There's a lot of things already talked about. Sometimes people ask me to talk about it again. I cannot because as I'm expanding and evolving, I have to talk about the things that come with the evolution that Spirit presents to me. I cannot go back or talk about things from the past, something I've already talked about. If you ask me a question like this on my email, which is always available for these questions, not personal inquiries about your life path, unless you have a personal consultation with me, I do those as well. I just had to do that. I'm sorry. I'm so thirsty. So you can write me up, and either way, perhaps I'm going to share an external source. I don't know. I always do my guidance as I do it in the moment. But I can't even refer you to my videos when I talked about that, because even I don't know. There were so many. So sometimes you have to show a little bit of your own engaging and just go with your flow, go with the intuition. It's hard for me to do all those things, produce these videos, write the book, do my daily messages on Facebook and Instagram, be in alignment with my community, and at the same time talk to all of you, answer your questions. Woo, that would just be too much. Oh, to live my own life as well, to be my inner child and just enjoy this planet. Yeah, we have to do that as well. It's very important for this, okay? For this galactic pulse of life. So Part of this main mission is also to be compassionate for those who do not yet have this template, because when you will have the understanding why they're like this, because of this, then you will know why perhaps they're not responding the way you are. And I know sometimes we, because we love people so much, we want to, oh, we want everyone to be there to get these things. But remember at that time that physically, um, Earth, all four levels of the lower bodies, we need to initiate and engage simultaneously at once. It's not easy cheesy, easy peasy. So we have to have the compassion that sometimes if things happen, go back to this. Go back to this. It's not a comparison. It's not better or worse. It's just different levels and stages of evolution. Those advanced souls here serving as volunteer souls, that's our assignment. That's what we do. That's what we're devoted to. And we're not doing that to gain any praises or recognitions. And like I said, most of the work is happening behind the scenes anyway, and through our own mastering of the relationship dynamics and what we need to learn as a practice. I have to say this as well. It's very important. Sometimes I don't know how to act with someone or something. It's new. Everything will be new to me because we can have this understanding on a higher level, but we have to find new ways each time. And sometimes even we can make these tiny little misalignments that, we're not perfect. As a human, we're not perfect. We're doing our best. But it's not the perfection of this is how it's supposed to be, because the people who are like this have also learned that through my own experience, right, that a lot of the times they're not perfect, but they really quickly can expect that perfection of someone else. So recently something happened and I had to do something in order to protect myself. And when someone felt they don't want to own their own action, what they did, when I just simply show them what they did, they said, huh, you did this, by the way. And I was like, what? It was so funny because I felt how they just wanted to cover up what they did with my own action. It's almost like, if by being blunt, we'd say, you don't get to judge me because you also do this, right? So who are you to say anything about me anyway? Again, it's duality, because it's not black and white. And what we do, we share from the heart. And even if we do, people who don't have their hearts fully activated as a cosmic heart essence, they won't always feel what we say. They won't always feel our love. They won't always feel our loving intention because their heart is closed. It created this, what I've talked about, these the ventricles of the heart created these kind of like barriers. They can't receive at the same level we're receiving. So if you're wondering sometimes, why is that person reacting, but I gave them just love, I just was so compassionate towards them, why? I don't get it, something wrong with me? No, not at all. But again, try to find, not try, but do, this compassion to understanding that this is why this is happening. And just instead of judging them, us them, constant duality, let's find a space of understanding that this is because they still carry this template, and perhaps one day they'll shift. They're gradually shifting if that's what their soul is choosing in this lifetime, or whenever they're ready. But we have to do the work for those that are moving, that are showing us the proper respect, that are saying, please hold my hand, like, instead of us thinking, come on, hold me by the hand, if they don't want to. That's a very important part of our path as well, as conscious instigators of change, as volunteer souls, because otherwise we're going to just become a part of someone else's mess, and we're not meant to do that. We're meant to be not babysitters. Then again, it makes us people not own their things, and that's what humanity needs to evolve through their own stories, through their own experiences. We can't prevent these for them. We have to share the truth and the knowledge, which is something I've drawn here. So what we can do is be compassionate. We can put out the information. Those who want it, they will somehow naturally resonate with it. They'll be naturally guided towards it. Sometimes when you meet someone who's going to be very much a counterpart, and when I say counterpart, it's not always just meant as the beloved, right? As an equal counterpart. But sometimes a counterpart can be, if you're so much in the light, someone can be so much in the dark. And you're going to meet that being as your current counterpart because they hold something vibrationally for you that you have to own too. If you're too naive, if you're too much in the light, they're teaching you something as well. They're showing you and they're helping you to bring that into balance. So no more judgment, blame, and victimhood towards others where they are. Let's try to have an understanding for that. Our emotional maturity and spiritual responsibility occurs through that. People who don't want to yet find that ownership, we have to let them be where they are. We can bring awareness. We can share information. If they're saying, stop feeding me with this, we got it. we gotta acknowledge the requests, because the free will is such a thing that even our galactic heritage, our beautiful, benevolent, divine cosmic parenthood loves all of life force, all of life forms equally, and even those that say no, we want to choose free will and go against this, they love them just as much to let them and allow them have this experience. Okay. um yeah, that's the topic of today. I think it's really important because a lot of these lessons and issues are now happening in this sphere, in this arena. If you find these difficult tendencies again, like I say, first thing, why is this happening? Why am I attracting this? Not because I'm the same, I attracted this for this. It's not so black and white, but why? What inside of me wants to keep this, wants to defend it to the last, wants to babysit it, wants to own it instead of that own it itself. Oh, and before I go, I need to tell you about this dream because it was very symbolic about this as well. It was just as I was processing a lot of this myself and preparing for the video for the whole week when I was mostly in bed, but it was coming through in a dream, and it was like I found myself in this kind of like a locker room, and then it was more of a bathroom, and someone all of a sudden, I think it was a male voice, yeah, he said to me, "You're in the wrong position, you're in the wrong side." It was left and right, and I said, "What?" And I was left, and he said, "No, no, you're in the wrong side." And then I figured, wait a minute, and then I see myself cleaning a window, no, it was a mirror. And I said, but it's okay, it's like almost like I'm realizing I'm in a men's room, but it's okay because I'm just cleaning. I'm saying, it's okay, 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 because I'm just cleaning, right? I'm not in the wrong position. And it was like a clear no-no. And when I woke up, it was very obvious because the bathroom does represent, the cleaning, the cleansing, and as we're purified. So the message was clear. Don't do that. We're not meant to clean after others, especially the feminine aspect clean after the masculine. We're supposed to be equal, benevolent counterparts, which means I stand on my full sovereignty. I claim responsibility and ownership for all that I've ever done, ever stand for, and I'm co-creating now. The same has to occur through this. So we can inspire, we can hold the space, but we don't go into it like, I'm going to do it for you. No, because then again, it's no longer equal counterparts. So if someone is moving in and out of your life, that means probably nothing wrong with you. But sometimes what I'm shown is they're not vibrationally where you are. You might find nice things in them. You might find similarities, and it's nice, and the humor and the light set and everything. But at their core level, perhaps they're still so wounded they can't coexist with you because your vibration is so strongly bringing that out of them. They don't feel good next to you. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. There was a lot of patterns of feminine essence feeling rejected by the masculine, or vice versa as well. But this was very prominent. And nothing is ever personal. Nothing is ever about rejection. But the lower aspect of our minds took it that way. It's almost like I have this example as well. Like for the first part of my awakening, my mind was still not as attuned to this higher advanced consciousness coming through me. And this intensity of energy, my mind always translated directly as, oh, I have so much work, I have so much to do. And as I became more evolved also in my human vessel, physically having more of this maturity and understanding, I realized that the mission, the intensity is vast because there's so much, my consciousness is huge, but it has nothing to do with me. Oh, now I need to do so much physical work. Oh my God. And I was always in this distress. So sometimes the mind misinterprets the mere essence that you're feeling. And that's, again, the solution is this. We're shifting from this to this. So the more of the spiraling dynamics we're creating, the more we're generating, the more we are regenerating. We're being constantly, like I said, reanimated. We're being more divinely intelligent. We'll have more soul gifts. Our compassion will just be immense. And compassion, remember, is love in action. Compassion doesn't happen here. It happens here. Your heart will denote your actions. Your actions will reflect the love that you say. Wow, it's universal, but it will also be human. It's how you translate this universal love into human. That's the compassion. So your actions will match your energy signature, which means people can say anything, but until their actions are not in alignment, they're going to have a very strong variety. So a strong differentiate between. you know, their actions and what they perceive about themselves. They say, I'm this best spiritual advanced person, but maybe not so much, okay? Perhaps when we're so advanced, we don't even say these things. We don't constantly assess ourselves, how we are. I'm this master, I'm that. We're just doing work of service. That's all that is our priority. For me, that's the highest advancement, is to constantly serve and not even think about constantly assessing yourself and, you know, obsessing about yourself, because you no longer perceive yourself so much as the individual. You're being the agent of the change, this galactic pulse of life, bringing in more and more to everyone, and that is open and to all that coexist with us. So that's very important. And remember, the mind can misinterpret many things. Ego still sometimes stands in the way. It will battle the last finest, because the programming, the numbing down here, the dumbing down as well to here to these two strands was just unapologetic. It was just tremendous distortion, and that's why now we experience these distortions in a world. But we have to see them for what they are. We can't say, "Ooh, it's all perfect. It's all it's supposed to be." There is a higher perspective. Yes, everything is unfolding how it's supposed to be, but we can't use that the same as this copy paste for the things that are not really right in this world, that are still going against unity, and that are basically feeding separation, duality. So we can't use that as a stamp, right? Find the discernment between what is that. That's what the intelligent galactic multidimensional consciousness, with those energy streams moving in but coming back at the same time. Here, no, not as much, not at the same time. Okay, so that's it. Whoa, that was a long video yet again. I hope you had fun. I sure had fun after a week of absence. I love talking to all of you, presenting this to you. My mission and goal now is to write a little bit, perhaps each day, of this book, to just see what flows, what comes next. I'll keep you posted. And if, like I said, if you feel you still want to benefit a lot from my videos, the more support I get from you, the easier for me it is to do everything, so that I don't have to worry about physical things so much. I can just get right down to business. Even writing these things down, like the topics, you know, sometimes it can take me up to a whole day, or, you know, whatever it is. So thank you for those support. Like I said, the links are down below. You can find links on donations on Patreon, as well as you can apply for a personal session with me. Now I'm back on track. I had a little bit more breaks in January, but I'm back on track. If you're interested, there's a link to my personal services. I would love to assist you if you are willing, if you want to do this work with me, of your own divine recognition of the self and your own mastery. So thank you for staying and listening for so long. Like I said, keep this in mind. I'm going to show you this one last time, right? Now it's just a sketch, no more me. You can do a quick print screen. Time is up. And I'll talk to you again very soon with so much life force and always an awareness to the devotion of love, truth, and power. I love you all so very much. And I forgot to say something. I'll say it next time. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.